Howdy everybody, and welcome to Monday, September the 7th. It is blowing like a son of a gun out there, and the power is out. So I've got my oil lamps lit tonight. So stay tuned. Tuesday morning we'll be out bright and early to see what the damages are. Oh, there it was. Boy, that was an easy one to find. I have a sneaky hunch getting rid of these gophers in this yard is never going to be an easy accomplishment thing. No, too many of those little holes all over in this whole area here. Yep. I'm thinking that part of the infestation of gopher issue out here is directly related to that. That is what's left of a root off of an old apple tree that used to sit right here, which is, 4 feet over or so. There's kind of a low spot right here in the grass. Anyway, there were roots running out, and I'm sure those mounds are all about where the roots ran. And now that that tree's gone, the roots are rotting, and it's making for easy digging for gophers. Have I ever mentioned that I hate gophers? Yeah. Well, gopher mounds out in the yard by the house are the least of everybody's troubles today. There are gopher mounds all over out here. But look at what else is out here. There are tree limbs and branches. Here's some from pine trees. Yeah, come out of that pine tree right there. Willow limbs down. Heck, I even have a rain gutter that got blown off the house last night. This is the mess of limbs that came down out of the front yard's willow tree last night. There's some pretty decent sized ones. About as big around as your wrist or so on this one right here. Yeah, so big mess out here in the yard today. Here's a limb that's down out of a willow tree right next to the fence on the south side of the house. And these pretty little sunflowers, well, they look like they survived all right. But their cousins across the street, all that over there, all those beautiful yellow petals got literally ripped off of those plants and blown across the street yesterday afternoon when the wind changed directions. While the gopher holes are filling full of water, I'll go find something else to do with my time for today, as I've got the day off. Yippee! Well, as you noticed at the start of the video last night, I was sitting in the dark. Other than a few oil lamps that I had lit around the house, there was no power for about an hour. And I want to tell you, oil lamps on the farm are a must-have, because you never know when your power is going to be out or for how long. Not only do they provide some light, they also provide some heat. Because right now, as I'm recording this, it is a nice warm 47 degrees. We went from mid-90s and we're going to be down into the mid-30s tonight. Yeah. Anyway, I got caught with my pants down regarding my oil lamps. So we're going to have a little tutorial on how to trim wicks today. Yeah. But first, we'll continue the walk around the place to check out the storm damage. The wind blew so hard last night, it literally stripped the Fuji apples off of the apple trees, and it even did its fair share of damage of dropping apples on the delicious variety of apples. So I'm gonna have to get out here and get this all picked up now. and there isn't a single apple left on this little tree yet, and it was loaded with them. Now, I just noticed it while I was out here looking at these apple trees, but I've got a broken limb right there on that old cedar tree. I don't know if you can see the split or not. Right up there by the trunk. There's the happy finger. Get that thing out of here. Anyway, yeah. These trees are definitely going to have to come down. Losing a crop to Mother Nature, like those apples, can really play havoc with a small farm's bottom line. Fortunately, where I'm still starting up, I don't rely on that income yet. But if I was solely relying on growing apples, for example, wouldn't work on a small farm. You got to diversify a little bit and have your eggs in more than one basket. Well, old Mother Nature must have had to use the bathroom last night, because she managed to blow the door open to the old outhouse. Then we'll close that up. All the trees appear to be standing though, so that's a good thing. It's amazing what a 70-mile-an-hour wind that was reported just west of here will do. That limb right there, you know, that's as big around as my forearm, at least, every bit of it. And that big limb that broke and fell down a week ago when we had our last little storm come through, the wind was so ferocious it managed to roll that about 20 feet to the west. Yeah. So we're gonna finish checking out these walnuts right here quick. Got the rail down in the fence. That I kind of halfway expected that because of the broken nature of it. Oh yeah, look, here's another limb hanging right here in the tree. Dropped down through, just hanging there. This limb's caught it up in there. So yeah, we're gonna have to do something here too. And there's more limbs back in there that have been knocked down. We had a red flag warning yesterday for high wind. Well, they weren't kidding. It started out from the west, as normal around Idaho, and it was blowing 25, 30 mile an hour gust. Par normal for Idaho. But then the wind quit, and it changed direction and started coming back from the east. You ever remember seeing any of those old photos of the Dust Bowl from down south in the 30s? I could see a wall of dirt coming, and it smelled like rain, and when it hit with a vengeance. I imagine we had at least 50 mile an hour winds, at least. It was hard enough that it knocked, let's see if we can see them, those green round things there with those aluminum cans. Those are walnuts off of the walnut trees, which are over 100 feet away. That's how hard the wind was blowing last night. Let's talk oil lamps for a minute. We've all seen this style in the old westerns and whatnot. Well, these that I have on the porch of the house no longer burn oil, even though they could probably be converted back. I'd imagine the bottom fuel tank is probably pretty nasty and might even be rusted through. These have been converted to run on electricity, which is a real common thing to have done with these old ones now. In fact, you can buy them brand new with a conversion kit to make them run this way. This particular lamp is on a photoelectric on-off sensor with a little eye thing on it. So at night, these will come on if I remember to turn the switch on. I'm going to be right up front and tell you right here and now, I am no expert at dating antique glass oil lamps, but I can pretty well tell you, I imagine this one right here, that one, that's pretty much an antique. And I'm saying that not because of the patina on the burner, I'm just talking about the design work in it. It is all cast underneath this base, and this surface is ribbed. Now, these two are newer. And I can pretty well tell you that, not because the burners are nickel plated or chrome plated as the case may be, but because they're made pretty with these gourd like ribs on the outside that have a real narrow little area in between them. Let me tell you what, these things are a booger to clean. Here's an overhead shot of the design. You can plainly see the ribs on the outside of this one and on this one. But these, like I said on this, are all up underneath the base. And the top, or the font here, the tank part that holds the kerosene or lamp oil, has ribs, but they're big flat areas in between it. So it does have a little bit of style, but it's so much easier to clean. Let me talk to you a minute about lamp oil versus kerosene, okay? That clear fluid, move it up here, you can kind of see it moving around. That clear fluid in this one is kerosene, okay? That yellow stuff is also kerosene. But this lamp has been in the kitchen with humidity from cooking and whatnot, and I am sure that that has contaminated that kerosene a little bit. Both of those lamps were filled at the same time, but you can see the difference in the fuel. And I attribute that exactly to where they were kept and used. I can also tell you the fuel in this one has a very pungent odor to it when it's burning. That one has been filled with one of those little cute 16-ounce, $8 bottle lamp oils that have a nice little smell, or some don't, or some are colored red, some are blue, some are green, some are even clear. That stuff does not turn yellow or go bad as quickly as the kerosene can. So why did I use the kerosene in the lamps? Well, at the time I could buy kerosene for $5-6 a gallon. Yeah, whereas the little 16-ounce bottles of lamp oil, $7-8 a piece for a 16-ounce bottle, and it takes 2 of those to make a quart. So you're figuring $16 to $18 for a quart, times that by 4 for a gallon. Yeah, the kerosene was dirt cheaper. I will tell you though, the kerosene does have more of an odor when it's burning than does the lamp oil, and it definitely smells better than the old contaminated kerosene that has started to turn yellow and rancid. There's also several other versions of lamp oil that can be used. You'll have to go online and see for yourself what that's all about, because right now we're just going to be talking about trimming wicks. Now, earlier in the video, I had made a comment about how I got caught with my pants down in that windstorm that we had last night. Well, this is why I got caught. This lamp right here, the old antique, it's almost out of fuel. In fact, this end of the wick that's laid up here isn't even in the liquid. So I'm not entirely too sure that one would even burn properly. So yeah, I should have kept it full, as what is my normal thing to be doing. Now these 2 lamps that I was using Monday night when the power was out, I had to trim the wick in a real hurry just to get them to working. And I can tell you right now, I had issues. If you look really closely at this one, let me turn the camera here so you can see it. See how it's high on that side? See how it's burned from about where my finger is over this way? That was a little interesting deal. This one, I don't know if you can see it, has a peak right here. Well, that one is a little bit screwed up as well. Let me show you what I mean. You'll have to pardon my doodling here. Well, that's a little high, but you get the idea. This is the flame. Okay? Now the problem is these peaks right here and right here on this side. Yeah. What happens with that is you don't get an even burn across the top of the wick. You want to have a nearly flat wick on top to make a nice bright flame. And those little peaks, they don't do it. The old timers are pretty smart about how to trim their wicks too. And I'll tell you, from all the research I've done, I'll show you the ideal way of trimming up those wicks. Some people will say, Dave, it's not that hard to trim a wick. You just cut it off at the top after it's been burned. And what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to get rid of that crusty bit at the top. Now sometimes it can be sort of soft like this one is, which is perfectly acceptable to go ahead and light it and burn it. But sometimes, especially if your kerosene gets old and this thing only burned for an hour, it's crusty and hard. So you've got to trim that off. And if you have any major discoloration of the wick, you can see right here how it's discolored, but if it goes down deeper into the wick, you need to trim that off as well. Okay, back to the square cut. Well, that's fine and dandy, but the problem is you get a fire that does this. Okay, this is the flame. Now, that may look like it's okay, but it isn't, because these points, irregardless how flat that is across here on the wick, these ends will flare up like that. And when they do, what do? You get smoke. Black soot and smoke. By the time you get that wick cranked up high enough to make a decent light. If you watch any of those old Western movies, you'll notice a lot of times that glass chimney at the very top of it, yeah, it's sooted up. And that's because of a flat-topped wick. Now we'll go back to the first drawing I have here of the way I had accidentally trimmed the wicks. These do the same thing. You crank the flame up high enough to see what you're doing with a good light, and you get smoke here, and you get smoke off of that. So yeah, these, bad idea. Now the most optimal way that the old timers found to trim a wick is to run the wick up out of the lamp and very carefully trim it with a slight arc, even all the way across. I'm not drawing this well, so I hope you understand and you're bearing with me. But if you can see that slight arc, that is the way all the old timers used to do it. The reason for the slight arch in the top of the wick was to let the flame become higher in the middle, thus giving you a little bit more light. But yet you have to trim that arc shallow enough to not create a point or a peak that is high enough that it'll cause soot and smoke to develop when you crank up the wick to get more light. One point of safety that I want to address while we're talking about oil lamps, and one of the reasons why I'm outside, is I plan on refilling these oil lamps today. Don't do it in your house. If you spill the fuel, whether it be the cute little bottles of red lamp oil or a jug of kerosene or whatever type of fuel your lamp will burn, you don't want that stuff getting all over your furniture or on the floor in the house, especially if you have pets. They'll drag that stuff all over the place and ingest it if they get it on their paws and start licking their paws. So please refill them outside like I'm going to do today after I trim the wicks. Another safety thing you need to do is never ever fill them clear up into the neck. That stuff will get warm and expand in your house or while it's burning, and it can run out over the top, down, and onto whatever surface you have the lamp sitting on. That's why the two little ones, like this, are sitting on a glass dish, of all things. And I chose glass. It was clear because it matches the lamp, and if there's any drips, spills, or whatever, it'll go into that plate. Now, That is also not a good place to put your match after you've blown it out, after you've lit your burner, because that match is still hot, and you don't want to put something hot in fuel. Now, I have unscrewed the burner assembly, that's what these are called, to trim that crusty off of this lamp. And because it isn't too bad, I'm going to just very gently trim the crusty off. And right there, if you can see it, I left a point. So I need to go back and trim that up. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it does have that curved top on it. Doesn't look like much, and it isn't, but that's enough to give me a darn good flame and a lot of bright light. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial on trimming up the wicks on kerosene lanterns or oil lamps, whichever terminology you'd prefer. Do go online. There's a lot of helpful suggestions on care and maintenance for these things. And the cotton wicks are fairly easy to come up with, and they're not all that expensive if you do a little shopping around. So don't be afraid if you make a mistake trimming the wick. If you got to go down a little bit further and trim it again. There's plenty. As long as that is always in the oil, you're going to have a fire and burning light. Well, that's going to be about it for today, so I hope you enjoyed this. And as always, please subscribe. Hit that little red thing right down there. It has subscribe on it in white letters. And click on the little bell icon right next to it so you can get notified every time I do a new video that comes out. You never know what the topic may be, but it'll usually have something to do with the farm here. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Let us know what you think about these videos in the comment section. Don't forget, we also have something coming up this weekend for you. That'll be out probably the first of the week. But we're going to go to a steam up. Yes, we are. It's the Minidoka County Museum's annual Ag Show and Steam Up. Yeah, that ought to be a pretty good show. We're going to take some film of it and put it on the YouTube channel for you. It won't be on the Facebook. It'll be on YouTube only. So make sure you subscribe to the Nelson Creek Farm channel. And as always, don't forget, we also have coming up on the 3rd of October, our own Vintage Ag Day here at the farm, and everybody's invited. It is free, there is no cost, and it is open to the public. So gather up a picnic lunch, come out and sit down next to the creek, watch the water flow through that while you're watching the excitement, or whatever you want to call it, that's going on out in the field. So anyway, we hope to see you here at the farm, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you at the Steam Up over at the Minidoka County Museum on the 12th.